Valentina put on the same dress she'd worn that day over a year ago, a short white dress with thick blue stripes and gold sandals that contrasted nicely with her dark skin. She had not worn that outfit since, but now stood in front of a full-length oval dressing mirror, wondering what she'd looked like to him. When he first came over to her table at breakfast in their hotel's restaurant and gave her his water so she'd stop crying. The first time he held her hand, when they escaped from Zaporavo and the dreadnoughts, his fingers slipping between hers like the most natural thing in the world. She remembered that moment in the taxi when they had almost kissed. Almost. The last time she ever spoke to him. And instead of making her the happiest woman in the world, he blurted out that he was married. Every time she had replayed that moment in her head, she reacted differently. She looked at herself judgingly, thinking how she should have responded, and ran through it a few times, took it this way and that. This time, she looked him square in the eye and asked, "Happily?" Looking at herself in the mirror, she sighed and reminded herself that she was acting like a lunatic. But who acts normal and sane when they're in love? Startled, she stared wide-eyed at her reflection. Whoa, 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 who said anything about love? Get out of here with those stupid thoughts, silly girl. She noticed that the sun was coming up, painting orange stripes across her face from the blinds on her window. That's it, she thought with relief. I'm not crazy, I just haven't slept, and I'm acting all loopy because I'm tired. She thought about the last time she saw him, dragged away by thugs, surreptitiously dropping his hotel key card for her to retrieve, letting her have the location of her brother and the painting back, and one of those melodramatic notes like in the movies, "If you're reading this, then I am dead," which she didn't believe. She couldn't believe. He was out there somewhere with a wife he didn't love, and he was thinking of her, maybe imagining what could have been. Which, she realized bitterly, would mean he was a dirty, rotten, cheating piece of trash, and she was better off without him. She sighed and went off to make a cup of coffee. Valentina's phone rang, her brother on the other end. "Lex, you're up early. Darling, how are you? Have you had breakfast yet?" "Is it breakfast time already? I should eat." "Let's meet up. I've got to tell you about these lovely gringos who are making a movie." "A movie? Here?" "Yes, and they want yours truly to be in it. But they also need a beautiful Chapina for a small role. I figured you might know somebody." "Funny, I thought you were going to say I could do it." "Or you could do it. Maybe. Ha ha, what's the part?" "I think they want you to play a kidnapped girl, and they're going to make a little video of you telling your loved ones how much they need to pay." "Really? A kidnapped girl?" "I know, right? What are the odds? I mean, I got kidnapped, so I know the part backwards and forwards, but they don't need a man. Even though I told them I could play a girl, no sweat, with bells on." "They didn't believe you?" "They were skeptical." "When's the shoot?" "Well, that's the funny thing. It's right now." "Now?" "Yes, but they'll give us breakfast right after. Plus the pay, for the acting. It's just $600, but like I said, it's a small role. But it could be your big break. You could be the next Meryl Streep." "But I look terrible. I haven't slept. I need to do makeup." "Hang on." While she was waiting, Val looked in the mirror again and didn't like what she saw. "Hello? They say it's perfect. They want you looking disheveled." "Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say disheveled, but they need to shoot the scene right now." "Jesus. And you know these people?" "Of course. We go way back. We're like family." "You met them yesterday?" "Last night." "I don't know, Lex." "Oh, come on. It'll be fun." Sigh. "I really do look terrible. They say that's exactly what they want." She looked at herself in the mirror, watching herself shake her head, and said, "Okay." Valentina hid the bags under her eyes with oversized Jackie Onassis sunglasses. She had showered the night before for her forgettable date and still had the lingering base note of her perfume, but she didn't feel too uncomfortable going out. She didn't smell, but even if she did, she reasoned, everybody had a COVID mask on and would be smelling their own breath. She did not bother with one because it was a beautiful morning and there was no one around and she was young and healthy. She arrived at the small hotel where her brother awaited. It was called the Casa La Capilla, right next door to its more prestigious rival, Maison Pansaverde. It was at the bottom of Quinta Avenida Sur, a cobblestone street right before it turned into a dirt road. Wincing against the sun, she parked next to a long block of single-story white apartments. Masses of bright purple and fuchsia bougainvillea tumbled down over some of the orange barrel tile roofs of the apartments, and palm trees, yucca, and Spanish bayonets lined the colonial-style hotels and houses across the street. A giant picturesque green volcano loomed above the trees that lined the dirt road, the due south landmark that all the tour guides pointed out for tourists to get their bearings. Two more volcanoes guarded the valley to the west. She always enjoyed the drive whenever she had the chance to make it. All the colors put her in a cheerful mood, and so it was that she entered the hotel with a spring in her step. There was a strong Moorish influence in the 500-year-old Antigua homes. The large front door of the hotel, for example, painted a Sela green to ward off gin, and studded all over with brass fixtures like the center spikes of old shields. Apparently, in northern Africa, itchy elephants would sometimes rub their sides on doors to scratch and cave in the entire door. Those spikes were there to remove the temptation. The style had made its way to the New World, but the lack of elephants let the door makers cut corners on the spikes and turn them into brass nipples. Inside, Bird of Paradise glowed in the morning sun against the somber craquelado walls. Huipiles and faldas hung here and there like intricately woven tapestries, and ochre velas flickered in the black iron candelabras atop antique furniture. It was a lovely little boutique hotel with 5 bedrooms, designed like a lot of the old houses in Antigua. Most of them were built with an inward focus, with all of them the rooms and their windows opening on a central atrium and a few windows on the exterior with wrought iron bars over them. They had interior gardens or courtyards, and some, like this one, had a pool so that hot air coming into the open-air aperture was cooled by the water, creating a natural air conditioning. Her brother Lex was sitting by that pool with 2 young men who looked like policemen on vacation. Hawaiian shirts with only the 2 middle buttons fastened, cargo shorts, dark glasses and running shoes, and those haircuts that only men of action seemed to like. They both half rose from their seats and nodded at her when she approached. They had on cloth masks, while their host did not. Lex smiled brightly. He had on the same sunglasses as his sister, with a white trilby, zebra slacks, a navy shirt, teal blazer, a long white scarf, and white leather flip-flops with discs of abalone on the strap above the toe post. His shirt was unbuttoned to the navel, showing off at least 3 necklaces. He conspicuously did not have a drink in his hand. "Darling, good morning. Meet my new friends." "Todd," said the dirty blonde one, offering his hand. "Kyle," said the brunette. Both of their handshakes were limper than she preferred. "We were just talking about the architecture," Lex said. "It reminds them of Africa." "Well, Morocco," Todd said. "I can see that," Val replied, taking a seat. "The Arabs had only just left Spain when we came over." "Yes, I think I read that," he said, nodding and looking at his friend for confirmation. Kyle cut straight to the chase. "We appreciate your coming to help us on such short notice." "Yeah, well, it sounded like fun. Can you tell me a little more about the movie?" "It's an action flick, nothing really complicated. All of the equipment we have is on location for the next scene, but we'd like to shoot just this part on a camcorder for authenticity." "Exactly," Todd said. "With a camcorder, it will look a lot like a real ransom demand video." "Oh, have you seen a lot of them?" The 2 men looked at each other for a moment, then at her again, and said in unison, "No." "I guess what they mean is," Lex said, "what they imagine a ransom demand video looks like. I'm afraid I couldn't help with that little detail because when I was kidnapped, they never actually got around to making the demand. Well, no, not kind of, literally, the least professional kidnappers in the world." "Yeah, I think we'll do a better job," Kyle said. "Are we doing it here?" Val asked. "Well, below, in the basement. They have a perfect basement. It's just like an underground bunker. Looks like a dungeon. All it's missing is a big old ring in the stone wall with a thick chain. But that's fine. We'll tie you to a chair." Something about that made Valentina think twice. The basement looked like the sort of place Val would expect to be interrogated about an ambassador's missing child. It suddenly did not behoove her to be tied to a chair inside it. She said. "On second thought—" "Action!" Kyle shouted and grabbed her. Lex pressed record on a little handheld camera, peering through the viewfinder, and scrunching his other eye so tight it bared his teeth on that side of his face. Val screamed, and Todd said reassuringly, "Good, good, keep it up," while he pushed the seat of a chair into the backs of her knees. She reflexively sat down hard, and Kyle pinned her while Todd tied her up. She struggled in vain, and her eyes were wide with fear and shock at her brother's betrayal. She briefly caught sight of him filming her over Kyle's shoulder and couldn't believe he was going along with this. That made her throat close so that she could only manage sobs of impotent rage. And in a flash, her captors backed away from her, and she was alone and feeling very naked in the glare of the flashlight. It made the tears glisten on her cheeks and in her wide brown eyes, and she could barely see the giant cue card someone held up. The image blurred, and her heart pounded. "Help me!" she screamed. "Read what it says!" someone growled. "Help me, somebody! Read it!" "Futuro!" she sobbed in panic, as if Guy could hear her, wherever he was, and would show up like Deus Ex Machina to save her. But in her desperation, it was the name she called out, and logic couldn't explain it. "Come on, darling, read the words," Lex said, leaning in to get a lecherous close-up of her fear. That somehow broke the spell, and she gasped, sniffled, and squinted at the sign. "Please, do what they say. Please do what they say. Guy, do what they say, please." The words were scrawled in black magic marker, and she caught the gist of it and babbled almost incoherently, just repeating that first part and hoping it would satisfy them, because she couldn't read anymore. "And cut! That's a wrap! Great job, everybody!" Someone was clapping, and each sound was a slap in her face, which was now burned red with shame. "Here, let me get that," Todd said to Lex, who proudly handed over the camcorder. "Let's have a look." "It's Oscar material," Lex said, and went to cup his sister's face in his hands. She bared her teeth and twisted away from him, which came as a surprise. Hey, she said. "It's over. You did great." But she wasn't finished acting. She seemed so absorbed in her character that she hadn't realized they'd stopped filming. Her brother tried to tell her again and again that it was done. She could calm down. "Here," he said to the others, "bring the light over here so I can untie her." But the light stayed shining from the same place. He had to squint to see the knot in the small of her back. If only that light wasn't burning into his eyes from the front. If only they'd bring it over here so he could see with it. If only she'd stop squirming, but she wouldn't. She just wouldn't hold still long enough. It was like trying to put eye drops in his doggy. "Just hold still, darling, and this is for your own good." He managed to pinch one of the coils of rope and work it back and forth until it loosened a little. "Wow, you made this knot tight, man. What are you, a Boy Scout?" But nobody answered. Maybe they both were so absorbed in watching the video. It was a great video, after all. A little bit more, and a little bit more, and there! It loosened enough to pull it out and start unwinding. But Val was now jerking her shoulders impatiently, making it hard for Lex to keep focused. "Darling, will you calm down, please?" "There, got it!" Val felt the coils come undone and tore them off of her, bolting to her feet. Lex squinted into the light and noticed it hadn't moved. He stepped off to one side and blinked away the purple blotches that stained his vision, and when he could see again, he saw that they were alone. Outside, where birds of paradise and tumberia glowed in the sunlight against the somber craquelado walls, brother led reluctant sister up out of the darkness, squinting at the empty garden and the silent pool. A hummingbird paused at one of the flowers, darting to another, and was gone. Maybe they went to order breakfast? Lex wondered. They took a few tentative steps. "Where is the dining, Val asked, unable to finish. I'm not sure. I figured it was somewhere, but come to think of it, I never saw a waiter. Or anybody working here. They told me to be here, and they were sitting right there, and you arrived. You just let me take them down there? Darling, please, it's not like that. I was with them all last night until 2 in the morning. We were having drinks right next door in the grotto. There's a perfect explanation for this." They wandered around the hotel, peeking into doors, until they found the manager's office. Opening the door, they stuck their heads in and saw a trembling gentleman tied to a chair and gagged, his eyes wide with fear.